sitting here today with Billy Dibb. Now, Billy, you've had an impressive career. You've also had a lot of challenges in your life. What have you been up to lately, though? Because I know that me and Rick saw you the other day at Legends Life Foundation's launch with Matchroom Boxing, and we said, man, we've got to do a podcast with you because you've got a great story.
Yeah, man. Look, I've just been going with the flow. Obviously, I retired from boxing. I stepped away from the sport of boxing, but in a capacity, I'm still in the sport of boxing because I'm looking after Munir Fateh, who's a pro and doing extremely well. And the other thing that's really exciting is I actually work with the WBC, and a lot of people don't know this, but I'm the chairman of the Champions Board.
Oh, wow.
And basically, I've been given a task to come up with a way for fighters to leave the sport of boxing with money. Because the saddest thing about boxing is that a lot of people retire from boxing with no money.
Yeah, of
course. How do you go through having this illustrious boxing career and then you leave the sport of boxing broke? And I think the WBC has been working for a very, very long time with WBC Cares, which looks after the fighters who are struggling, and the WBC is paying so much money in servicing things for fighters who are from the past, who are champions, and making sure that they have at least a little bit of dignity. Nice. To be able to walk into a restaurant and be able to get something to eat with some money. Sure. Because so many fighters leave the sport of boxing broke, and it's terrible. And one of I think the last straws was Israel Vasquez, who is a former world champion, who was a legend in the sport of boxing, was involved in one of the best trilogies in boxing, which was Israel Vasquez versus Rafael Marquez. And he passed away last year from cancer, man, and basically left the world with no money. His family was broke. They couldn't even afford to pay for his funeral.
Oh, wow.
And so now my mentor, Sid, who's also my business partner, we've been given the task of coming up with a formula that's going to help fighters leave the sport of boxing with money. And the WBC has now mandated that fighters must, from 2026, do this course.
Amazing.
Otherwise, they can't be rated within the WBC.
Yeah. And what's involved in that course? What do they do?
So basically, it's going to be an application that we've set up. That's going to be, they're going to have to do Q&As. It's I'm not calling fighters dumb, but you got to really dumb it down. It's basically giving choices the opportunity to make the right choices. Yep. Example, if you earn $100,000, is it better to buy a car or buy a house? Obviously, it's more important to, financially be stable, and that's by buying a home. I think that's the first thing that a young fighter should do is, the minute they start making any kind of money, they need to start putting some of that money aside to start buying a property, right away, because boxing is one of them sports where things can go wrong real quick.
Yeah,
you can be on top and then be on the bottom within one fight.
And a lot of the guys don't have money, so when they get a bit of money, they spend it lavishly, and it's gone,
Yeah. The biggest mistake that fighters make is that once they earn a little bit of money, they buy cars, they buy jewelry, they want to fake it.
Yes.
Before they make it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's not fake it till you make it. It's they want to fake it before they've even made it. You know what I mean? It's they walk around with a Rolex on or whatever, but he spent his whole pay pack on that Rolex. You know what I mean? Or he's wearing a nice necklace, some jewelry on his ear and that, but he spent all of his pay packet on that. He left nothing on the side. And so we've got this rule, it's called the 33% rule, which is what we're going to teach fighters, is basically investing 33% of your money into a blue chip stock return or whatever. They give something that gives you a return.
Yeah, nice.
33% into your savings, and 33% is your living.
Spending.
Yeah, so that's your spending. So if you live like that, you'll never be broke.
Mate, these guys should be an accountant, mate.
You'll never be broke. So,
you're in the wrong industry.
a lot of athletes in general, and the really exciting thing about what I'm doing with WBC is that I'm not just going to do that with the WBC. I'm looking to do that worldwide with sports all over the world. And what I want to do is, I've had some really cool talks with Phil Gould, who's one of the the icons of rugby league, and we've talked about that as well. And you wouldn't believe how many rugby league players leave without no money either.
Yeah,
they got no money. You know what I mean? Rugby league players, they have illustrious footy careers. They do well. They play in the Origin, whatever, and then they leave broke as well.
Yeah. A lot of sports people in general, I think.
Well, look, man, it's very sad because obviously sometimes people are steered in a direction where they invest their money in the wrong places. You know, they lose money because of shares and things like that. Whatever.
Course.
You know what I mean? Nothing's ever guaranteed, and that's the thing. We're not going to tell fighters where to invest their money, but we're going to tell them how to invest their money.
Sure, it's good.
How to invest your money, you know, how to make smart choices, not make dumb choices.
Mate, you've been so big in the WBC. I've seen you at a couple of those big conventions, rubbing shoulders with some of the greats of the sport. How did all that come about?
Well, you know, back in like 2000, and I think it was like 2000 and I'm gonna say 14 or 13. I was in camp with Mikey Garcia.
Yeah, nice.
Mike Garcia is a very, very close friend of mine, and we actually flew out and went to the WBC convention, which was not the major one. It was the one for like the NABA and all that stuff. Okay. And when I went to the convention, I saw Mauricio Suleiman there, and he, like, obviously, we're very good friends.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, it's all right.
The logo went off on the screen.
Mate, this computer, this did it to us the other day, and I was gonna kill him.
Yeah.
I'm like, this stupid thing actually burns me.
How old are you, sis?
Me, 24.
24.
Yeah.
Sorry, bro.
That's all right.
You got a good roll then as well.
You can ask that question again. I got it.
All right. Tell us about the WBC.
Yeah. We're good. Yeah. Cool. So you've been so big in the WBC and really rubbed shoulders with some of the greats of the sport. How did all that come about?
Yeah. So a few years back, I went over to America and started doing a bit of a training camp with Robert Garcia, because I wanted to work with a guy who was responsible for 3 of my losses. You know what I mean? He was responsible for 3 of my losses through Gradovich twice and Stephen Luevano. So I was like, what's this guy teaching these fighters to break me down? What is he? You know what I mean? And so, you know, I became really, really close with Mikey Garcia, and I was living in his house, and he was like, listen, I've got to go to this convention. It's in, I'm not sure, we had to get on a plane and travel somewhere, but we did, which is really cool. And we got to this convention, which was like the NABA convention and stuff. It was not like the major WBC convention. And I saw Mauricio there, and Mauricio knew who I was, and I was, you know, like, I was shocked to know that he knew who I was, and it was pretty cool. We spent some time together, and then I worked out that Mauricio is actually half Lebanese.
Oh, wow.
Right, and he like speaks a little bit of Arabic and whatever. So, you know, I was pretty shocked at the time. You know, I couldn't believe that. You know, Mauricio is half Lebanese, and
you know, the connection.
Yeah. So it was actually really, really cool. You know, and so then I said to Mauricio, hey Mauricio, you know, I actually won the WBC Youth World title in 2008, but I never got the belt. And he's like, in 2009. And he goes, what do you mean? I go, they never sent me the belt. And he's like, this is not how we work, you know what I mean? So he's like, send me your address. And then the belt, he ended up sending me a belt.
Better late than never, huh?
Yeah, I mean, I ended up getting it, you know, which is really cool. And so I built this amazing relationship with Mauricio where we'd like be on the phone all the time, and, you know, messaging, and then I was diagnosed with cancer.
Okay.
And one of the first people to contact me was Mauricio. He's like, what's going on? And I was like, look, man, I've been told that you know, the diagnosis is very grim. It's not looking good. And he's like, listen, you're a champion, and, you know, that's not how a champion talks. And I said, you're gonna overcome this, and when you overcome this, I'm gonna see you at the next convention.
Yeah, nice.
And I was like, yeah, look, we'll see how it goes. No. He goes, we'll see you at the next convention. Okay.
Yeah.
And so then I'm in a hospital bed, and I get a video from a text message from Sean Gibbons.
Yeah.
And Sean says, oh man, they just made this massive announcement at the WBC convention, and everybody in the auditorium got up and clapped for you. So Mauricio was like, in this video, he's like, Billy, I am here at the WBC convention, and everybody here is rooting for you, Billy. You're gonna beat cancer. And we're gonna see you at the next convention. He goes, everybody stand up, please clap for Billy Dip. And the whole auditorium, like all these champions, everyone got up and started clapping. And
how good is that?
He sent it to me, and then and then I thankfully overcame the cancer. And you know, I just thought it was something that he did just to maybe like motivate me in some way.
Wow.
Well, then he rings me for the following convention. He's like, Billy, you coming convention? I was like, I really thought you were joking. No, you're my champion and you're gonna come. And I was like, really? And he's like, 100%. So I'm like, I'm coming to. It was in Uzbekistan, so so we get on a plane, we go to Uzbekistan. It's all first business class. It's like top notch, right?
Yeah, nice.
We get there and the treatment's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Like I'm not joking, it's unbelievable, right? And I'm like getting called up on the stage with like the Julio Cesar Chavez's, the Mike Tysons.
For sure.
I'm like, what is going on, right? So I got up because they made this like amazing announcement. He's like, the champion of hope for this year is, they played this amazing video and then they awarded me champion of hope. And I got up there and they gave me like this full WBC title and this robe and anyway, it was unreal. I was blown away, right? So I wrote a speech.
Yeah.
Not knowing what was going on, but I was like, if they call me up, I'm gonna need to say a few things.
Of course.
So I wrote this really cool speech. It was short, and I read it, and then afterwards, like Chavez is sending me gifts. Durant sending me gifts.
Man, that was
I'm not joking.
surreal.
I was in my room and somebody knocks on my door and it's like, oh, this is a gift from Julio Cesar Chavez. I was going, serious, man.
Right. I remember seeing the video. I was like, man, that is unreal. And they all respect you like you're the champion.
I'm telling you, listen, we called it the trip that doesn't stop giving, because all it did was give. It was like I was basically went home, my luggage was packed to the brim. I was getting gifts from everybody and whatever. And then I think the complete top off to that trip was I got into the lift and Alexander Usyk was in the lift and I'm like just standing there, just how I champ. He's like, I'm good. And then I was like, all right, that's cool. I'm not gonna like overstep my my mark here, whatever. Can I get a photo or anything? I just like kept it really cool. And he's like, you are not champion. And I'm like, me? And he's like, yes, you are not champion. And I'm like, all right. I want a title, you know what I mean? And he goes,
you didn't want to fight?
He goes, you are a legend. And I'm like,
Oh,
me?
nice.
And he goes, yes. He goes, you are a legend. He goes, you are a hero. And I'm like, wow, man. And like, thank you, brother. He's like, what you overcome is like not many people do. So he goes, you are very special. And he goes, you're my friend for life. You know what I mean? And so he hugs me. And then I was like, while we're at it, do you think I could get a photo?
Yeah, I was like, did you get your photo?
Smooth operator, mate.
So Sid and I, who's like my mentor, my business partner, like just a really close person to me. We got a photo with him and stuff, and then it was like, you sort of like feel like that's where it's gonna end, but then I seen him again the following year and whatever. It's like, it's like a real friendship. You know what I mean? It's like nice. We like. It seems like we pick up where we left off. So it's awesome,
Sid must have been blown away just on the sideline watching that.
Like Sid couldn't believe the amount of love I was getting from international fighters. He was like, man, like, he goes, how's like you're an icon here, but in Australia it's like, what's going on? You know what I mean? I'm like, listen, that's just how Australia is. It's built on tall poppy syndrome, man. But in America and like,
they celebrate
and like,
it.
I'm telling you, like, when it comes to the WBC, the treatment that I get from not just the WBC but even the IBF is amazing, unreal. I mean, the amount of love that I get shown from the fighters and whatever, and obviously you're respected for being a champion, but then when you overcome cancer, it's like another level of respect.
Talking about cancer as well, when you found out you got the diagnosis, what went through your head straight away, and how did you sort of bring yourself to the person you are today?
I mean, like the first thing that I like was thinking was like, wow, man, like I'm gonna die. You know what I mean? I'm gonna leave my son. You know what I mean? I was like, who's gonna look after my son? That was the first thought was like, man, my son's 2 years and 8 months at the time, and I'm like, man, my son is gonna grow up without a dad. And I'm like, and so like everything just right in that moment just like completely paused. I got this doctor sitting directly in front of me, and I got my mum sitting behind me in tears. Because my mum had just got through telling me literally 10 minutes before the hematologist walked in that there's nothing wrong with you. Like, I know God wouldn't hurt you, you know what I mean? You're too much of a good person, So then I just looked back at her and I smiled, and I was like, I actually smiled at my mum. I was like, this is insane, you know what I mean? And then the doctor was like, if you don't take the chemotherapy, you will be dead within 5 to 6 months.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
And I was like, there was a part of me that's like, I can't take the chemo because my wife Sarah had taken chemotherapy and she died from the chemotherapy. So I was like, if she died from it, what chance do I have? You know what I mean? Like, what hope do I have? And so I just, like, everything just pauses in that moment. It becomes like slow motion. It's like he's very still, I'm still, and then I'm thinking to myself, how do I turn 6 months into 60 years? Because that's really what I need. I need another 60 with my son, you know?
Yeah, of course.
So I said it out loud. I'm like, how do I turn 6 months into 60 years? And he goes, why? And I was like, man, I got a son who's nearly going to be 3, and I got to walk him to school in a couple of years' time. And he's like, you just found your reason to fight.
Yeah, wow.
He goes, you just found your why
You just
factor.
got goosebumps
yeah, he
there,
goes,
man.
he goes, you just found your why factor.
Yeah,
And then I was like, look, man, I'm not a quitter, you know.
of course.
And in my head, I'm thinking to myself, if I quit, then I'm giving permission to my wife to quit.
Yeah.
Then that gives permission to my son to quit. And
Yeah.
like, I'm not a quitter. I've never been a quitter. I've always
So you're
persevered.
strong, huh?
Never.
Yeah.
Like, I always persevered. So I said to him, you know what do I got to do? He goes, you got to start chemotherapy yesterday. That's how urgent it is. And I was like, let's go. I'm ready.
And is it as rough as you thought it would be, the chemo?
I had no idea what I was in for.
Wow.
He told me, his exact words were, look, it's going to be a tough journey, but you'll get there. You'll see the finish line. And I was like, man, is that a protocol thing that you guys say? Because you said that same thing to my wife.
Yeah,
And he
wow.
goes, look, it is a little bit. He goes, but am I wrong? You are strong, you are fit, you're healthy, and you know. And I was like, listen, man, I'm like, just whatever. I don't want to even talk about it anymore. Let's just go. And then the next day, they transferred they transferred me to another hospital. The next day, I'm in the hospital room, and they send like a how do you say it? They send like somebody who's like a social worker or something like that. I don't know, something like that anyway. And the doctor was in the room, and 2 of my brothers were in the room, and this doctor comes in, he's like, I need to talk to you, and I just want to know, like, how do you feel? And I was like, yeah, look, I'm ready. And he's like, look, do you know that, there's a possibility you could die? And I was like, are you serious right now? He's like, because I know that, because we know that your wife died. I was like, listen, I'll tell you something right now. I'm going to give you a few seconds to collect yourself and get the F out of this room. I'm like, you and your negativity need to leave right now. I said, because
Good, I like that.
I'm like, there's no negativity in this room, you understand that? Anyway, and then my brother was like, come on, I said, listen, tell this guy to get out of the room right now before I do something that it's gonna, that everyone's gonna regret. Not me. Everyone's gonna regret that he came into the room. Get him out.
Yeah.
And then he was like very like, oh, and I was like, listen, you send in an amateur. You guys are sending in amateurs. What is this? Like, what is he doing in an apprenticeship or something? Get him the F out of the room, you know?
Yeah, good.
So I, just let everyone know that, listen, this is going to be a fight. I'm not going to
go down
I'm taking
quietly.
no prisoners. I'm taking no prisoners, you know what I mean?
You have to.
It's me and myself and I became like, not selfish, but I was like, I needed to do it for my son, you know, my son and my wife. I was
100%.
like, can't leave my wife and my son behind. I'm not doing that.
Yeah, of course.
I kept on thinking, like, if I die, my wife, like Berry, she's gonna have to raise our son by herself, because I know she's not gonna go and get married again. So I thought, she's gonna live the rest of her life lonely, you know what I mean? And I don't want that for her, you know what I mean? She's too much of a good person, you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
And I say I found the reasons to fight, and the thing is about life is that whenever you hit some sort of a roadblock, if you find a why factor, you'll overcome that roadblock.
Yeah,
Because the why factor in your life needs to be so powerful that you'll be like, I got to do it for that.
Yeah.
I got to do it for that. You know what I mean?
In times when you were actually going through all the chemo and that, there would have been times where it was challenging and you thought, fuck, this is hard, you know? Well, how did you stay positive in those times? Or did you stay positive?
I did. I just felt like, you know what, I actually, it's out there. People know the story, but my brother actually wrote on the wall of the hospital on the board, there's a big board, and he wrote, "Get up, you son of a bitch, because life loves you."
Oh, well.
And if you know Rocky movies, I grew up on Rocky movies.
I've got goosebumps again.
That was a quote in Rocky 5
Mickey.
when he's down and Mickey says, "Get up, you son of a bitch," because Mickey loved it. I was like, anytime I was down and out, I just look up at that and I think, man, I can't do that, you know what I mean? And then I remember one day a nurse came in and I was like, man, I can't believe I gave you permission to kill me.
Yeah.
Like I should have just stayed home and died slowly. At least I would have got to spend time with my son, my wife.
Yeah.
Instead, I'm in here dying fast.
Because of the chemo.
Yeah, and she's like, no, we're not trying to kill you, you know what I mean? And she's like, listen, I saw something really special yesterday. And I was like, what did you see? And she's like, when your son got to the door, I saw you, like, you lit up. She goes, you looked alive. She goes, and you got to look forward to their moments, you know. I know he can't come much, but when he does come and you get to go outside and see him, that's the moments that you got to live for, you know. And I was like, she's like, you just got to keep fighting.
Wow, that's
You know, and she's like, I'll tell you a story. And I was like, all right. She's like, my husband died. I was like, that's not a very good story. She goes, no, you're not letting me finish. She goes, my husband died because he gave up. My husband was sick and he gave up. He had nothing to live for. His kids had all gotten older and moved on with their lives. And I'm like, she's like, he gave up. And she's like, I feel like he could be here today if he didn't give up. She goes, so don't give up.
Yeah, nice.
Don't be that reason that your son goes to school and says to his mates that my dad died because he gave up.
Yeah,
I was like, that's not going to be me.
Man, I'll never ever forget when I was at home and a video came on. I think it was you and Ben Damon.
Yeah.
And this was during your chemo.
Yeah.
And mate, like just it was heart touching for me because I could see the pain that you're going through.
Yeah.
And then, but
I remember it clearly.
you know, it would have been. And you look at that now. You must look back on stuff like that. Think, fuck, mate. Like you've overcome so much in your journey.
Yeah, I mean, look, I never complain.
Yeah.
I never complain. I never say why me.
Yeah.
You know, I actually say why not me. You know, I mean, what makes me any better than anybody else? We're all going to go through certain things in our life.
Yeah, of course.
You know, life is never going to be, you know, just roses and all these nice things. You know what I mean? It's there's going to be times where we're going to face adversity and we're going to go through certain things, but it's about how you overcome them.
Yeah.
And, you know, and obviously I remember back to that time with Ben Damon. You know, obviously I was still not in remission. I was still going through the battle, you know, and he said to me, he goes, what would it mean to you to be in remission? And I was like, man, I don't want to die.
Yeah.
I don't want to die.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm not scared of death.
Yeah.
But I was thinking about burying Lath. I was like, man, if I die, man, who's going to look after these two? This is my job, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like my son, like it's my job to take him to school. It's my job to take him to do sport. You know, it's not my brother's job. And even though my brothers told me, look, man, we promise you, bro, if anything happens, we'll look after him. We're going to look after him. My brother was like, bro, his school is going to be looked after. His sports will be looked after. I promise you, everything he wants to do will be looked after. And I was like, I know, but I want to do it myself, man.
Of course.
I was like, bro, I don't want to die. Please, man, I don't want to die. You know, you start thinking that your brother and, you know what I mean, but the only person that's going to save you is God, you know what I mean? Like once Sid, who is he's been a mentor for me for a long time now. He's now my business partner. But Sid, actually, I messaged him during my time when I was in hospital. I said, Sid, the doctors have said that I'm going to be dead in 6 months. And he's like, that's a really good story they're telling you. He goes, what's the story you're telling yourself? You know what I mean? He goes, I'm going to circle around in a little while to see it. He goes, but do yourself a favor, surrender yourself to God.
Wow.
And I was like, this guy's like telling me to give up. Because as a fighter, if somebody says to you surrender, he's like, give
it's
up.
Not in our vocabulary.
Yeah, so I'm like,
No way.
he's like telling me to give up. So, but once I read the message properly, what he was saying was that there's no peace and harmony until you surrender yourself to God.
Yeah, well.
Once you surrender yourself to God and let him take you on that journey, you're going to be fine. By the time I got to the point where I was going to find out whether I was still sick or not, I'd woke up in the morning and said to God, if you'd opened up a place for me in heaven, take me because I'm good, man.
Yeah, wow.
I'm ready to go, you know what I mean? Like I'd surrendered myself and I had my connection with God was so good. Was like, because somebody really just said to me, what's your biggest fear? I said, living life. And they said to me, do you think you love your son more than God does? And I was like, no. He's like, that's correct. You do not love your son more than God does. Yeah, God gave you him. And God could take him back. And God could take you back. We're all children of God, so he can take us back whenever he wants. Yeah, so just like you think you're going to be able to look after him, God's going to find a way for somebody else to look after him. He'll be all right.
Man, this story it's touching me a lot because I've got a little boy now, 7 months old. Yeah, and just I could empathise with you and that feeling, mate. It would be so tough at the time.
You actually know, you become a father, which you are now. It's like, and you one day become a mother. It's like
One day.
you start to realize, oh man, now I know what my dad was worried about. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
don't go out with your mates. Don't do anything. Don't do this. Make sure that when you're, it's like, oh my, this guy doesn't shut up, man.
Yeah,
But,
literally.
but then now I'm a father and I see my son, what he's going through and the things that he's doing at 5 years old, and I'm like, Dad, don't jump off that counter because you will hurt yourself. And he does it anyway. You know what I mean? I'm like, that's what my dad was talking about. You know what I mean? Like,
It comes around, huh?
yeah,
It's a circle of life, bro.
It is a circle of life. It really is.
Wow. And now you've recovered and
Yes.
you're with your son every day, and you're training still.
Yeah. So I stay fit every day.
Yep.
I train, I run, I do boxing, I do a bit of weights. And then my son is like, we set up like this little home gym downstairs. So we in the garage. Basically, we do, like, my son's like a boxing freak. He loves boxing.
That's awesome.
He's starting to love soccer as well now, which is a good thing because I'm trying to push him up. But we told him yesterday, so you're going to just going to do soccer? And he goes, no, I'm going to do soccer and boxing.
You're like, damn it.
Yes. He just
Steer him away.
He loves it so much, and he's a complete natural.
Wow.
Like, it's like a complete natural. It's freaky.
If he turned around to you and said, I want to be pro one day, what would you say?
Look, me
him
and
away.
his mum have that discussion all the time. She's like, my son's not going to fight. I said, well, listen, here's the thing. You won't be making that decision. He will be.
Yeah.
And we'll be just supportive because that's how it has to be. We can't tell our son to do what he wants. If he doesn't want to do something, he's not going to do it. And if he wants to do it, he's going to do it. He's going to find a way to do it behind our back.
Yeah,
I'd
definitely.
rather be supportive and like guide him. And you know what? Like, in the day and age of boxing that we live in, as you can see, the Conor Benns, the Chris Eubanks, the Tim Zoos, the Nikita Zoos, like, if your dad was the champ,
Yeah.
yeah,
follow
you're
suit.
gonna follow. You're gonna,
It's like
you know what I mean?
hereditary.
Yes, yeah.
It's the gene.
And the thing is like there's an interest in it. There's an interest
definitely.
in like the son of.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Of course, there is.
But you
Good
should take
marketing,
it as a
mate.
compliment, because there's a thing where these kids are looking up to their dads being like, I'm going to be like my dad one day. And that's got to be the coolest feeling.
Yeah, that's cool, but I want him to be better than me.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
100%.
I don't want him to be as good as me. I want him to be better.
You're going to train him to be better?
Oh, no doubt. Like, let me tell you, I started boxing when I was 12. I had no idea how to throw punches correctly. He's 5 and he throws them so correct.
Wow.
It's crazy. His left hook is like a left hook from hell.
Yeah, well.
The power on the left hook is like sleep.
Billy, you obviously fought a lot when you were younger as well in the
Yeah.
amateurs. Tell us a little bit about your amateur career. How many fights? When was your first fight?
Yeah, so I had an amateur career of 113 amateur fights. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I had 98 wins, 15 losses. I traveled all over the world. I boxed. I boxed at the World Cadets, World Juniors, World Seniors. I boxed in all these major tournaments across, across all of Europe.
Yeah.
I mean, I've even fought in Hungary. I fought in Cuba. I fought in Thailand. I had an amazing run.
Wow.
I had a great run.
Yeah.
During my amateur career, I had some rivalries. One of my rivalries was with a guy by the name of James Ronaldson.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, James Ronaldson. We fought 5 times. I beat him 5 times, but he was one of my rivals. Obviously, I had the rivalry with Greg Eady.
Oh, yeah. I know Greg.
Yeah, I had a rivalry with Ryan Langham.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so like, and I had a rivalry with Joel Brunker. You know what I mean? So
He was one of my main sparring partners
so
when I was younger.
I had mad rivalries in amateurs, but I had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But once I missed out on Olympic Games, it was like I had to reset and work out what the next goal was. And and after meeting Princeton Seam at the age of 17 and going through some footage with Nas, he was like, listen, your style is definitely more pro.
Yeah.
And he's like, I reckon you could become a world champion, you know what I mean? So when you got a guy like Princeton Seam saying that to you, I was like, you know what, let me start again. Let me do a reset. And I did the reset button, and my last amateur fight was against one of Tommy McCurry's boys.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was one of Tommy's.
What was his name?
Man, I don't know.
It wasn't Robbie Peden, was it?
No.
So you obviously had a big amateur career, and you're talking to us about some of your fights that you had. Tell us about the rivalries that you had as well.
Yeah, so obviously I had a couple of rivalries. The rivalry that was a really interesting one was the one against Joel Brunker. That was a cool one, you know what I mean? And then I had Greg Eady, I had Ryan Langham, I had James Ronaldson. Like people that I fought over and over.
Yeah.
Another one. An early rivalry that I had was with Shane Georges.
Okay.
He was the guy who actually beat me in my first amateur fight.
Yeah, well.
Yeah, and then I actually went on to, beat him a few more times, and he beat me another time. It was kind of cool, but as you get older, and then you want to make the Olympic Games. Once the Olympic Games was sort of out of reach, and I'd missed my opportunity just due to my stupidity. I decided to turn pro. After getting some great advice from Prince Nassim Hamed, who was a good friend of mine, who I'd met at the time when I was 17, and he basically advised me that, look, I think you should try your luck at the pros. I think you found something special. You know what I mean? And so I fell into the pros, and things just moved quick. You know what I mean? I was like, I was fighting regularly. You know what I mean? I was fighting on a lot of Jeff Fennick fight nights.
Oh, nice.
You know what I mean? I fought on a lot of D-Rush shows. There was a promotional company called D-Rush Promotions. In my first pro fight, I actually fought in the undercard of Paul Briggs versus Stipe Jews, which was for it was a light heavyweight eliminator.
Yeah, I remember that fight.
Yeah,
I was training with Paul Briggs at that time.
Yeah, and so I actually won my pro debut in good fashion, and then it just rolled on, bang, bang, fight after fight after fight. I was busy, and then by the time I'd had 13 professional fights, I was 13-0 with 9 knockouts.
Yeah, nice.
I got on a plane with Jeff Fennick and went to America to do a training camp with Mike Tyson, and then one thing led to another. Next thing you know, I found myself at Shane Mosley's house.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was probably one of the most amazing moments of my life. I remember being at Engadine RSL Club, watching Oscar De La Hoya versus Sugar Shane Mosley in their first fight, and thinking to myself, I wonder if I could ever be as fast as Sugar Shane Mosley, because he was quick.
Yeah.
But De La Hoya was quicker.
No, De La Hoya was quick, but Sugar Shane was like letting the flurries go, and I thought, that's incredible, And so the next thing you know, my trainer Harry and I are in Pomona, California, at Sugar Shane Mosley's gym, and then I thought I was going there to basically show Sugar Shane what I could do on the pads and on the bag and that. And next thing you know, I see Sugar Shane take his top off, ripped to the bone, right? Like every pads, and they're fine, right? He's just come off knocking out Fernando Vargas.
Oh wow!
In their second fight.
Yeah, big
so
fight.
He was sharp, right?
Yeah.
And so he takes off his top, he starts putting Albaline on, and I'm thinking maybe he's going to do a workout. And then he starts putting his boots on, and he's putting his wraps on, and I'm like, what is this guy doing? And I'm like, Sugar Shane, what are you doing? And he's like, I'm getting ready. I goes like, what for? And he's like, to do some sparring. I go, with who? And he's like, with you. And I'm like, you're going to spar me? You're going to spar me? He goes, yeah.
He would have been heavier than you as well.
Yeah, he was welterweight.
Yeah.
And I was like featherweight, super featherweight, you know what I mean? I was like featherweight. And he's like, and I'm like, I'll turn on my channel, I'm like, Harry, I'm going to spar Sugar Shane Mosley. I go, do you remember in 2000 or 2001 when I was asking you if I could ever be as fast as him? It's like, now's your chance to work it out. No, I'm not joking, right? So I get in the ring with him, and I'm so shell shocked about what's happening. He's doing all these movements, and I'm getting jittery, and I'm starting to get petrified. You know what I mean? And I've been there with Prince Nassim, and let me tell you something. Prince Nassim hits probably just as hard as Sugar Shane Mosley. He was a freak. Yeah. And Sugar was like, he did this, and I put my hand out, and he just slapped me on the face with an open glove.
Don't put your hands down.
And I was like, what the hell?
Take that.
And then he did it again, and I went like that, and he went again. He did it 3 times, and I come back to the corner, and Harry's like, do you think, based on that he's gonna sign you up?
Yeah.
He goes, let me tell you, champ, if you don't go out there and destroy this guy in the next couple of rounds,
you're done.
He will not sign you up.
Yeah, well.
Because you go out there, put your hands down.
Yeah.
Put your chin up.
Yeah.
Come from every angle. Do what you do best.
Yeah.
And he's like, otherwise we're getting on a plane, we're going home.
Yeah.
So I went out, put my hands down, I start coming from angles, and the inner Prince Nassim came out.
Yeah, start boxing.
Flying at angles, uppercuts, hooks,
Yeah.
trying everything to knock him out.
Yeah.
He's obviously taking it easy.
Yeah.
To some extent. He's putting in some fast jabs, but I'm trying to hit him back and everything. After 3 rounds, he took his gloves off, and I was like, oh, he's not impressed, you know what I mean? And so, like, you know, I'm like, this sort of saying, he's like, listen, what's the plans over the next couple of years? And I was like, man, my dream is to become a world champion. And it's like, I got no doubt you're going to be a champion. You'll be world champion, no doubt.
Mad.
And he's like, how would you like to be signed to Golden Boy Promotions? And I was like, you just said that you need to speak to Oscar De La Hoya before you make any decisions. He goes, no, I'm telling you now.
Wow.
Welcome
Can
to
do
the
it.
team.
Fuck, awesome,
And I
man.
was like, you're joking. He's like, let's ring Oscar right now. And so, previous to this, by about 2 weeks,
Yeah.
I was at the MGM Grand watching Israel Vasquez versus Rafael Marquez.
Yeah. Yeah, amazing
Right?
fight, yeah.
I was there.
Yeah, yeah.
And I gave a disc to Eric Gomez, and I asked him to give it to Oscar De La Hoya.
Was you training or what was it?
Yeah, it was me fighting.
Yeah,
it was
mate.
highlights.
Yeah,
me
mate.
fighting. And so he rang Oscar and was like, hey, Oscar, he's like, I got the next Princeton Seaman boxing gym. He's like, what are you talking about? He's like, I got this young kid, his name's Billy the Kid. And Oscar's like, that name rings a bell. He's like, hey, no, actually, you know what? I actually got a disc of this kid the other day. And I was like, man, this kid fights a lot like Princeton Seaman. And so Shane's like, we're going to sign him up. And Oscar's like, absolutely.
Yeah,
You know,
mad.
so like then that night we went out for dinner. We didn't talk about contracts. Now the next day we caught up, all of us again, sat down in a meeting. We started signing things over, whatever, and then they sent the contract back. We got it checked out, whatever, and then I signed myself to Gold Boy.
How good was that? That was amazing.
I was the first international fighter
Yeah, to be signed.
to Golden Boy Promotions.
Amazing.
In their history of their company, I was the first
Yeah,
international
yeah, yeah,
fighter. I was
yeah.
the first fighter from Australia, first real international fighter.
Wow.
They signed me up on a really cool deal. You know what I mean? It was like right off the bat I was making money. You know what I mean? I was like, off the bat I was making $15,000 a
And
fight.
fight, yeah, nice.
Which
Yeah,
to
good.
me was like
Yeah, good money.
That's very
Yeah.
hard to make these
Nah,
days.
Man, it was great money. 15,000 US off the bat, and my first pro fight was on the undercard of Winky Wright versus I Corte. The second one was Shane Mosley versus Collazo.
Yeah, nice.
The third one was Kitsidis versus Casamayor.
Oh, wow.
The fourth one was De La Hoya versus Mayweather.
Okay. You fought on that card?
Yeah.
Wow.
I fought at the MGM Ground. Yeah, I fought at, yeah. And then
Mate, what insane.
no, I'm serious. And then I fought on the undercard of De La Hoya versus Pavlik.
Yeah, wow.
All big cards, all
huge
massive,
cards.
massive cards.
I think Mayweather, De La Hoya's been the biggest of all time, hasn't it? Or up there with one of the
At the
biggest?
time,
Yeah.
it was massive.
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
man, and here's the really cool thing about that.
Yeah.
I was a part of the whole thing
Wow.
because Oscar De La Hoya was so kind, and we had such a good friendship. He was like, "Let's bring you over to do the training camp with us in Puerto Rico."
Yeah, mate, unreal.
So I was in Puerto Rico at the age of like 20, I would say 22, with Sugar Shane Mosley, who was one of his main sparring partners for the Mosley fight,
Yeah.
for the Mayweather fight. So Sugar Shane and I turned up 24/7. That was their first 24/7. So I was in the background looking at all the cameras. They were doing what they were doing, right? I spent like 4 or 5 weeks in Puerto Rico with Shane and De La Hoya.
They're mad.
I sparred with Panchito Bajado. I sparred with AJ Bernal. I sparred with all these guys who were like up and coming,
machines.
like
Yeah,
were
yeah.
legends, like machines.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say legends, but they were machines. And they never became world champions, but they were right up there. You know what I mean?
How was it being around De La Hoya, watching him train? Because he was one of my favourite fighters.
Man, I tell you, I had an amazing time with Oscar.
Yeah.
Like Oscar invited me to his home for barbecues.
Yeah.
At the time, he was married to a woman by the name of Millie.
Yeah.
She was a Puerto Rican pop star, and he had this beautiful home, pool tables, like cinema rooms. It was cool, man. I had a really, really good time, and Oscar was like extremely nice to me. You know what I mean? Like really, really nice and very accommodating. And then obviously the press conferences and the arrivals and all that stuff. And that was when I first met Floyd Mayweather and 50 Cent.
Ah, yeah.
So at the press conference, I remember seeing 50 Cent, and I tried to see if I could get a photo.
Yeah.
And the bodyguard was like, "Nah, man, you're with the fucking enemy." You know what I mean? Sort of pushed me up. I'm like, man, I trying to get a picture with, like, seriously, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anyway, so then everything transpired the way it did. I won on the night. Oscar lost. You know, I thought it was close. You know, I mean, who knows? It could have gone either way. But anyway, so after Oscar lost, I had built a relationship where I had enough, you know, like, respect from him where I could come to his change room. You know what I mean? So when I got to the change room, they're like, he's just getting changed, so you're gonna just have to wait outside. So I waited outside, and then as I was waiting outside his change room, Floyd Mayweather and 50 Cent are walking past with like a camera crew and whatever. And then Floyd Mayweather was like, stop for a second. He's like, listen, kid, you're the future of boxing. I was like, me? He's like, yeah, man, I seen you fight on the screen, the way you were moving, your speed, your movement, your angles. Like, how long are you on contract with Golden Boy for? And I was like, I got a couple of years to go. I'm like, why? He's like, come see me, huh? And I was like, what's all that about? You know, I was like, what the like, crazy? And I was like, hey, Floyd, do you think me and my dad could get a photo with you on 50? And he's like, of course. And then I was like, I looked at the security guard. I'm no joke. I looked at the security guard. I was like, you know what I mean? The one that pushed me up.
You're fired,
yeah,
bro.
Anyway, so Floyd took a photo with me and my dad, and he took a photo with me, and then 50 was like, 50, like, can I get a photo? He's like, he was wearing that, you know, the body armor thing, because he came out rapping Floyd to the ring, and then got a picture with him, and that was the end.
Yeah.
Left it then, and then a few years passed, and so I'm in America. I've just boxed against I've just boxed in Cabazon, California, against this Mexican kid, and so we go back to Vegas with my friends for a little bit of time in Vegas and stuff, and I'm in In-N-Out Burger, and Floyd Mayweather was in there with Left Eye from TLC.
Oh,
you remember TLC?
Yeah, I know.
You remember the rappers?
She was good. She's pretty.
Yeah, TLC.
Okay.
She's pretty.
So Left Eye was in there, and like he's all over. And he's like, I know you, and I was like, yeah, we met at I fought on your undercard when you fought De La Hoya. And he's like, yeah. He's like, what's going on? I'm like, nah, I'm doing good. I've been winning and stuff. He's like, listen, you know, we're gonna talk one day, you know. And I was like, all right, no problem, man. It's like, that's cool, you know. And I was like, hey, Floyd, can me and my friends get some photos with you? He's like, of course. So all my friends are getting photos, and because, like, I want my friends to be able to get pictures with Floyd, you know what I mean? Because and we all got pictures, and it was really cool. And then so then that all passed, whatever, and then I became world champion because I was released from Golden Boy after I lost to Stephen Loevino. They gave me an option. They were like, we got to put you in another hard fight, or we can just give you a release. We can give you a release, and we'll give you some money. We can keep the doors of communication open, and we'll see how it goes. I was like, you know what, I'm going to take the release. I'm going to go home and just do some soul searching and work out where I'm going to go. And the rebuild started, and then eventually, I was starting to get desperate, and I actually traveled to America. I rang Eric Gomez, and I was like, Eric, like, I'm begging you, please, I need to come and see you. I don't want to talk to you on the phone. I'm going to get on a plane, and I'm going to come and see you. And so I traveled to America. And this was after having, like, I think it was like 6 fights, but I was just desperate. I wanted back into the US. I was sick of fighting on obscure shows in Sydney again. I was like, man, how do you go from fighting in Madison Square Garden, MGM Grand?
And even stay motivated for these shows.
I was like, man, I can't. I'm like, I'm not able to get up. I'm feeling like,
of course.
I'm down. I'm down. I'm feeling down. I'm winning, but I'm feeling down. So I went to Eric Gomez and I said to him, Eric, I know Ponce de Leon's a WBC world champion. I'm begging you right now. Put me in a fight with Ponce. I can beat him. And he's like shaking his head. I said, I will fight him for $1. $1.
Yeah, nice.
I don't want a purse. I'll pay for my own flights. I will fight him for $1. He's like, we can't do it. I said, Eric, please, I'm begging you. I'll fight him for $1. Ring Oscar right now. Tell Oscar that I'll do it. And he's like, all right, let me see what we can do. And then I came home, and a few things started transpiring. The next thing you know, I was moving up the ratings pretty quick. And then Mike Altamira rang me and he says, Bill, just hang on to your horses for a second. He goes, because something's happening with the IBF,
Yeah.
and you're rated really highly. And he goes, I think Gamboa is going to be stripped of the title.
Gonna get looking.
He goes, you're going to be next in line.
Yeah, beautiful.
So I was like, shit, man. I said, I had my last fight. I had 9 fights, and I fought Ricky Siswando in my last fight prior to the world title fight. And Billy Hussein told me that we're not going to fight for a world title until you hit the 10th fight. He goes, I need 10 fights with you, you know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
After the 9th fight, the world title opportunity arose. Next thing you know, I'm fighting for the IBF world title.
How good's that?
And I'm fighting a guy called Jorge La Ceiba, who's like a really, really tough, rugged Mexican guy. And he had just fought, he was actually rated highly as well, but I was supposed to fight Mikey Garcia.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
So Mikey it was Billy Dib versus Mikey Garcia. And so I rang Mikey Garcia
Yeah.
and told him that I'm going to sell my house and I'm going to take it to the purse bid.
It's mad.
And and at the time my home was worth about 900,000.
Yeah,
This
yeah.
is like back in 2011.
Yeah.
And Mike's like, you're mad. And
Put
I was
it all
like,
on the line,
I was
huh?
like, I'm doing it, man.
Yeah, nice.
I'm bringing the world title to Australia. I'm gonna win it on my own soil.
Yeah, beautiful.
If I'm gonna beat Mikey, the only way that I'm gonna do it is at home.
Yeah, love that.
I'm gonna bring him out of his comfort zone. So then Mike Altamira rang Cameron Duncan and said to Cameron, listen, this kid's coming with $1 million to the purse bid.
Yeah.
He goes, you guys are gonna get paid well. He goes, but you're gonna have to come to Australia. So then Cameron Duncan said to Mike, he said, listen, let me talk to Top Rank. Top Rank then said, nah, we're not sending Mikey to Australia.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, then you better come to the purse bid with something special, because if you don't come with more than $1 million,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
They were doing it nice.
You guys are going to be paying me some big money.
Yeah,
to
yeah,
come.
yeah.
You know, if I'm going to go fight Mikey, I'm not doing it for less than $750.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they withdrew from the purse bid. They said that Billy Dib's a boring fighter, and we're
Really?
going to go in another direction.
Wow.
That's what they said. They said that Billy Dib's style is very lackluster, and he's not a very entertaining fighter. So we're going to go in another direction. We're going to go for the WBO title. So I'm fine with that.
Yeah, yeah.
So next thing you know, we're in this purse bid against La Ceiba, and La Ceiba is looked after by a guy called Sean Gibbons. And Sean Gibbons knows Mike Altamira well and whatever. And so Sean says, listen, if you pay the kid, I think it was something like $90,000, we'll come to Australia.
Oh, wow. Done.
I was like,
Wow.
we'll pay you.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't believe it. My manager at the time, who was co-managing me with my brother Emad, his name was Michael Carianis.
Yeah.
He rang, what's his name again? That guy who comes from that really wealthy family in Australia. His name is, used to be in a relationship with Mariah Carey. He's from Australia.
Yeah, Packer.
Yeah,
Oh,
he rings.
yeah.
So he rings Jamie Packer, and he goes, Jamie, I look after a young man by the name of Billy Dib. He's on the verge of winning a world title. Da 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 da. Next day, I woke up. There was $250,000 in my account.
It's all
Did I
about who
just-
you know, huh?
Did I get a scam?
Jamie Packer put $250K in my
Amazing.
account, right?
That's amazing.
So we paid the guy the purse. We did this amazing promotion.
Yep.
I boxed his ears off
Yep.
because he was so dangerous. He'd been in fights with people like Celestino Caballero, and he gave Celestino Caballero hell.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Man, he gave him hell.
Yeah.
He was really clever. He was one of these like switch hitters. He had this trick where he would turn to southpaw and then he'd throw this punch, and he was very tricky, you know. And so me and Billy put together the best game plan. We had a 10-week camp and we left no stone unturned. We had Joel Brunker in camp.
Oh, nice.
We had another guy who he was from Melbourne. He was a really good fighter as well from Melbourne.
Yeah.
I've forgotten his name, you know. Sorry, brother, if you watch it. But he gave me real good work, and then we had like really good sparring. We went to America. We did sparring with Sharif Bogheri. We
Yeah.
sparred some really good names, and so I was left no stone unturned.
Yeah, you're ready for
Become a world champion. You know what I mean? And then after becoming world champion, I defend my title, and then finally get the phone call from my brother Emad. I'm in Dubai, and he's like, "Listen, I need you to meet me in Las Vegas." And I was like, "What for?" And he's like, "Something big's happening for you." And I was like, "What are you talking about, man?" He's like, when I was in a fight against a guy called Rodriguez, and it was a tough fight, and my
Yeah.
brother's like, bro, you got to win this fight because I got big news. Anyway, then I won the fight. He's like, I'll tell you when you get back from your holiday. I was like, just tell me now, man. He's like, when you get back from your holiday.
What did you?
So and I was like, when I'm on my holiday, so then he rings me, he goes, bro, you heard of TNT Promotions? And I was like, yeah. He's like, the money team? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, they want to sign you up, bro. And I was like, what are you talking about? I go, that's Floyd Mayweather and 50 Cent. He goes, they want you on their roster. And I was like,
Yeah, mind blown.
and I was like, bro, I'm just going to come back to Australia and we'll go together.
Yeah.
And he goes, all right, get back on the plane as soon as you can. So the next day I was in Dubai with Prince Nassim.
Yeah, yeah.
So I told Nas what was going on. So I got on a plane, left the next day, went back home. Next thing you know, me and my brother are in Vegas. But then as we're getting to Vegas, Floyd Mayweather's been incarcerated for domestic violence. Remember when?
that. Yeah,
remember?
I do. Yeah.
So then he'd left 50 Cent with the instruction, and 50 Cent picks us up. He has a guy called Tony Smalls, picks us up from the airport. Tony Smalls is not a small guy, he's a very big guy, but his name is Tony Smalls. And we end up at this hotel, and in the evening,
Yeah.
50 Cent turns up in a Lamborghini, a Rolls Royce, and some other car.
Sounds like a movie.
It was crazy,
Yeah.
man. And then
Music video.
50 rocked up, and I was like, I took my title down with my IBF title, and I was like, 50, do you remember who I am? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, tell me where you met me. And he's like, I met you when Floyd fought De La Hoya. And I was like, man, you got a good memory, bro.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, man, I told you we're coming to get you, which has just been in the making. And then so we ended up going out for dinner and having an amazing night. And then the next day they signed me up on this unbelievable contract. And then, yeah, everything went to shit because Floyd Mayweather and 50 Cent had this big fallout, and I was stuck in the middle of it.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, it was terrible, man. Then 50 ended up setting up this business called, or promotional company called SMS Promotions, which was his headphone company, and it was just downhill from there. You know
What ended up happening with him? How did the fallout happen?
Yeah, so basically, Floyd was incarcerated. 50 was servicing his partner while he was in jail.
Yeah.
Miss Jackson, and that was the end of it.
Fucking hell.
That was it.
Crazy.
What
Yeah.
You've had a pretty cool story.
Now, honestly, you know what? I'll be
That's
honest with you. Like, from when I was a kid, right?
Yeah.
The first person that I ever trained with, who was amazing, was obviously Costa. That was the like my first look into a legendary fighter who was in my own backyard was Costa.
Yeah, of course.
Costa was kind enough to allow young kids to come up to the gym to watch him train, as long as you didn't talk on the phone, as long as you just sat and watched, which was, for me, was an amazing experience.
That would be amazing.
Right, and then I met one of Costa's sparring partners, whose name was Fred Tukes, and Fred Tukes was a really good southpaw who was brought into camp for Shambe Mitchell, brought into camp for Zab Judah.
Yeah.
He was a very good
sharp.
American fighter, you know what I mean? And I asked Fred if he would come and spar me when I was a young kid, like 17, and he's like, yeah, I'll come and do some rounds with you. And he came to do some rounds with me, and he was just like, man, I had all these people that were telling me, mate, you got world championship qualities. You got fast hands, you got great movement, your reflexes are unbelievable. And I've got amazing footage of me sparring when I was young, that. And I look back and I'm like, man, I was quick.
Yeah.
I was elusive, I was like coming from all weird angles and doing things that fighters don't usually do. And so when I was 19, this is before I went to America with Jeff and that.
Yeah.
Fred was in camp with Arturo Gatti, who was getting ready for Thomas Damgard.
Yeah, sure.
And Thomas Damgard was the southpaw. And so I rang Fred and I was like, hey Fred, how you doing, man? He's like, good. He's like, I'm in America. And he goes, I'm back in America. I'm like, what are you doing there? And he's like, I'm working out with Arturo Gatti. And I was like, man, I wish you told me. I would have loved to come. He's like, why don't you come? And I was like, do you think could you ask them if I could come? He's like, let me get back to you. So he then speaks to Pat Lynch, who is the manager of Arturo Gatti, and he speaks to Buddy McGirt, and says, look, I got this young friend of mine who's a really talented fighter. At the time, I'm only 6-0.
Yeah.
Can I bring him to America? And so I ended up getting on a plane. My cousin Rabi and I got on a plane. We flew into Miami. Then we got on a train from Miami and we went to Florida.
Yeah.
And I get to Florida and I'm a bit jet lagged and stuff, and then you know, meet up with Fred. He's got us staying in this really cool like little hotel, like a setup that Pat Lynch has put us in, and I get to meet Arturo Gatti. And it's like, you know, the human highlight reel. And I'm like with this guy, Arturo Gatti, and he's so humble, and he's like giving and caring, and, you know, like if there's anything I could do for you, I hear. And so then the second day of training, I walk into the gym, and there's a fighter by the name of Jason Litiao in the gym. If you don't know who Jason Litiao, look him up. They used to call him the American Dream.
Yeah.
He was on an amazing run, knocking everybody out.
Yeah.
Just prior to becoming that world-class level, he came unstuck.
Yeah.
But he was supposed to be the second coming of Arturo Gatti.
Yeah, right.
That's what people used to call him, the second coming. And he was in camp with Arturo and stuff. And so I'm in camp with him, and then Buddy McGirt says, Billy, you want to spar with Jason? And I was like, I've been watching this guy on ESPN. He's knocking everybody out. I'm not joking.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'll spar.
Yeah, yeah.
And I only just like maybe 2 or 3 days off a plane.
Yeah, yeah.
I was like, I'll spar. He's like, you sure? And he's like, he's very strong. I was like, he wouldn't be able to hit me. He couldn't hit me. He couldn't hit me with a bag of rice.
Yeah, yeah.
I go, he
Doesn't matter
couldn't.
how strong he is.
He can't hit me.
Yeah.
He's like, all right. And you know, I get in there, and I tell you, I danced and ran circles around Jason Litiao. I smashed him up.
Wow.
Then Buddy was like, are you signed to anybody?
Yeah.
And I was like, no. He's like, come with me. Like, I'm not joking. This is literally after the spar. He's like, come with me. And I was like, where are we going? He's like, just come with me real quick. We go into this office, and I'll tell you right now, if I could ring Buddy McGirt and put him on speaker right now, and I could get him to word for word to say what I'm about to say.
Yeah.
He picks up the phone and he rings up Cafe Duva. Do you know who Cafe Duva is? Okay, boxing Cafe Duva is main events.
Okay.
Right? Back in the day, Cafe Duva is like, you're talking about the Duva family. She's like the head honcho of main events. So he rings up Kathy and he goes, Kathy, I got a young boy who's 6-0 in this gym. He's 19 years old. This kid's going to be world champion. He goes, he just dusted Jason Litiao up. Easy work. Like easy work. And he's only 2 days off a plane.
Yeah.
She's like, really? And he's like, yeah. She's like, bring him with you to Newark for the press conference. So I was like super excited. So now I'm going to get to stay to do this camp with Gutty, and I'm going to go with them. And so my cousin and I were in like America for like 12 to 13 or 14 days.
Yeah.
We go to the press conference, and I'm having this conversation with Cafe Duva, who's asking me questions about who I'm signed to, what I like to sign to, main events, and it's all happening. And then I don't know what happened. It just all fizzled out. It just like the conversation fizzled out. I rang Pat Lynch a few times, and he's like, there's a few things going on and whatever. I don't know what happened, but then what's his name? Buddy McGirt came to Australia.
Yeah, yeah.
Tava's fighting Danny Green.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, wow.
So I catch up with Buddy McGirt, and he remembers who I am, and we have a conversation. It's all hugs and whatever. It's like, man, what's going on? And I was like, I'm gonna become champion. I'm still gonna become champion. I ended up becoming world champion. You know what I mean? And I got in contact with him. Me and Buddy have like one of the closest relationships now. Like I've been back and forth, spent time with him and whatever. And
You know, I trained with him for like I think it was maybe 4 or 5 months in New York.
really,
Yeah, I went over there, Gleason's, and he was there, and just went up and spoke to him, and then ended up training with him.
yeah, man. So I'm telling you, like as a young boy, I trained with, you know, like the likes of Costa Zoo, Arturo Gatti, Mike Tyson, Shane Mosley,
Man.
Oscar De La Hoya,
Experience.
Bernard Hopkins.
What a resume.
You know what I mean? Floyd, like Prince Nassim Hamed. Then, you know, I got the chance to work with people like Freddie Roach,
Yeah, man.
Buddy McGirt, Robert Garcia.
Yeah.
I've really enjoyed my boxing journey.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I wouldn't change it for any, like I would have loved to win more world titles. I challenged for a lot of world titles.
Yeah.
I was the IBO world champion. I was the IBF world champion. I challenged for the WBC title. I re-challenged for the the IBF title. I challenged for the WBO title. So I fought for every world title that you could fight for, bar the WBA.
Wow.
Right, but I did have an opportunity at one point where I was trying to unify the title with Chris John, but he wanted no part of it. You know what I mean? And they didn't want to fight me. At the time, he was looked after by a guy called Craig Christian, and we're trying to make the deal happen. It didn't work, but my journey in boxing's been unreal.
Amazing. Who's the best ever that you've come across or trained with, in your opinion?
Man, I've trained with like some unbelievable fighters. I tell you now.
Who's your favourite?
I trained with Prince Nassim when in 2004. Nas retired from boxing in 2001 or 2002.
Yeah.
So it was still a young Prince. He was maybe 30.
Yeah.
I was 17, he was 30. But let me tell you something, he was unbelievable.
The way he moved in that.
Man, his timing was like crisp.
Did you ever watch him?
Yeah, what do you mean? I watched him.
I'm talking to you.
No. So this, I'm like,
He was, man, like
I feel very young speaking to you guys right now.
Nas would be like standing like this, and he'd be just like the light, and then you make a mistake, bam, he hits you right in the solar plex, man. He hit me in the solar plex that many times. I thought he was going to crack my solar plex. But, you know, I got to do rounds with Sugar Shane Mosley. I got to dance around with De La Hoya.
Yeah, man.
Like, man, I really lived the boxing dream. You know what I mean? I really did. And you know what? Boxing is one of them sports where, you know, it never gives you your accolades when you're around. It never does. You never get your credit while you're around. But, you know, like the WBC convention, like being diagnosed with cancer, being told that you're going to die, then fighting your way back. And then Mauricio was like, why don't we have a farewell fight as a joke? It was like, it was a joke. And it turned into something serious. And then the next thing you know, I'm in Germany.
I remember that. Yeah, it wasn't long
and
ago.
I'm fighting on this card, and it's on the zone, and it's a farewell fight. And I'm not fighting somebody who's supposed to be, you know, gonna kill me or anything like that. It's like it's a respectable fight. You know what I mean? It's like he knows that he's got a job to do to try to win, but he's not on the same level as me, even when I'm at my worst, coming off cancer.
But are you done now? Like,
So I beat this guy, right? And so then, you know, I win, and you got people like Lennox Lewis there, Michael Mora. You've got all these Mexican legends there. You know, Amir Khan was there. It was what an amazing way to leave the sport of boxing on your own terms, right? As a winner.
Yeah.
Then you arrive home, and you're on this high of being, you know, you've left boxing on your own terms. You never left on your back. You know, they told you you'd never fight again. You fought. You know what I mean? Like, I was so content. Then I get a phone call from Eddie Hearn saying the Saudis are trying to get in touch with you. And I was like, why? And he's like, well, they got this event called the Ring Magazine event, and they want to invite you to the event. And I was like, man, this is like, wow, I'm like really getting my flowers. You know, like the fact that I'm getting an invitation. And I was like to Eddie, I'm like, who's going to be there? He's like, all of the legends. And I was like, and I'm getting an invitation. He's like, yeah, champ, of course, you know, you've earned your right.
Wow.
So I'm like, man, I'm going to London now, and I'm going to be rubbing shoulders again with some of the best. I rang Amir, and I'm like, Amir, are you going to this thing? He's like, yeah, I'm going. Then I ring Mikey, and yeah, I'm going. And like, all these people are going, and I'm like, wow, and I'm being invited. And I'm like, then I get news that I've been nominated. No, I'm not only just going, but I've been nominated for comeback of the year. And I'm like, what the fuck? This is crazy, right? So I ring my brother, and I'm like, hey, bro, you want to come with me? And he's like, yeah, I'll come with you. And I mean, so I find out that I'm up against Nick Ball. I'm up against Angela Leo. I'm up against Dennis Dubois. I'm up against some guy from Japan. I'm up against some good names. And I'm thinking to myself, look, I'm not going to win it. But I'm like, what an honor it is to go. So then I arrive at this event. And then, you know, you see Lennox Lewis, Alexander Usyk, Dubois. I'm seeing all these people at the hotel and whatever, and rubbing shoulders with everybody. And then everyone's talking about how there's no one more deserving to win in comeback of the year than you. And I'm like, man, what are you talking about? They're like, these guys beat opponents. You beat cancer, bro. Like, you're going to win. So I was like, I better write a speech, man. You know what I mean? I better write this speech. So, like, my uncle, Ange and Sid helped me write this mad speech and whatever. And then I'm practicing this speech over and over, and I'm walking around in the room. And so basically, you know, I'm in this crowd. I'm sitting down. You know, I'm surrounded by all of these champions. And I'm not talking like, you know, Mickey Mouse champions. I'm talking about De La Hoya, Usyk, Dubois, AJ, you know, the Victor Ortiz, you know, like Madrimov, all of the greatest champions of this current time and some of the past are there right there.
I remember seeing the photo.
Yeah, and I'm like, man, this is... And yeah, so then they opened it up with Dennis Dubois. You know what I mean? And then like you get this little clap, right?
Yeah.
Because you can't see that on TV, but I'm in the crowd, so I could see how people are reacting in the crowd. Nick Ball, Angela Leo, and the next thing you know, they said, and Billy Dibb. And when they said Billy Dibb and everybody started clapping and whistling and whatever. I'm like, oh shit. My heart.
That's me.
Now my heart starts doing like, I'm telling you, you could see my heart pounding through my shirt. And then after they did the introductions of who the nominees were, Ryan Garcia says, and the winner of Comeback of the Year is Billy Dibb. And I was like,
what a moment.
So I looked at my brother, I'm like, give me the speech. So he gave me the speech, and then I tell you, I was so nervous. I was like shaking, and we were just snapping shots everywhere. And
so cool.
Right? And then Mauricio Suleiman was like, you're my champion, and this night was for you, and you spoke so well, and he goes, it's such an honor to have you as, you know, a part of the WBC and a part of the WBC family. He goes, you're my hero, you know what I mean? I was like, man, this is crazy, right?
Funny how life works, huh?
Yeah, it's like, I was like, man, I'd never been so content in my life.
So we've been talking a little bit about your finale in Germany, and we've only started getting to know each other now, right?
Yeah.
And when I seen you at the Eddie Hearn thing at Legends, I was like, I think he's got more in him, and I just want to know, for me, is it fully done, or are you thinking about doing a finale here?
Yeah, I mean, look, you know, truth is that I am actually in regards to competitive boxing, I'm done. Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna do any of them competitive fights anymore. Obviously, health is wealth. You know what I mean? And I want to be able to say that I've left the sport of boxing with my faculties. You know what I mean? So fighting against people with 8-ounce gloves is a done deal for me. That's not happening anymore. I'm content to leave that where I've left it.
Yeah.
But what I do, you know, I do love doing is staying fit, and basically, you know, if an opportunity opens up, you know, with exhibitions being such a big thing in the world of boxing now, I wouldn't mind having a couple of exhibitions, you know what I mean, just to stay in shape. You know, when you think about legendary fighters who do that a lot, even at a very old age, was like Chavez and Duran, they did a lot of that stuff. And, you know, if I could have an exhibition bout as, like, you know, here and now, I wouldn't mind doing that. You know, I mean, it's something fun that keeps you motivated and helps you get back in shape and look forward to something.
Everyone a Wanderer card, you reckon?
Let's talk, man. I'm definitely open to it. You know, why not?
Yeah.
Why not? You know, it'd be a really cool way for the Australian fans to get to see me. You know, they didn't get to see me as I was in Germany, but it would be nice to have a fair one in Australia.
Now, I was thinking about it. I'd love to put you on a Wanderer card.
That'd be awesome.
Maybe we do it at Horden, and you do an exhibition there as well. I think it'd be an amazing send-off for you, you know?
No, man, I'd love that. That'd be amazing. Are you just signing me out right now?
Yeah, I was like, it's done. It's
No, I love
signed.
it.
Contract's done.
Why
I'll get
why
the
not? You know,
papers.
I'm definitely open to it. As I said, you know, for me, it's always fun to be in the gym, working out with the younger kids and just having a bit of fun. And obviously, you know, an exhibition is not a fight. It's not a fight. It's not like you're getting in there with somebody who's going to try to hurt you. The gloves are a little bit bigger, and so, you know, why not? Definitely, why not?
Billy, if you had one message to give to the next generation of fighters coming through, what would it be?
Yeah, man. Like the message that I have is it's a good message. It's basically, you know, make sure that your vision is very strong. Know what it is that you want in your life, and chase that vision. You know what I mean? It's like the consistency's got to be on point. You know, vision, be super consistent, and then know that after the consistency, success will follow. You know what I mean? You got to believe in yourself before anybody else believes in you. You got to really work hard and really persevere to chase that greatness. And, you know, I often tell young kids at schools, when I go to schools, I always tell the kids, I say, listen, we're all children of God.
Yeah.
And if God is the greatest, which he is, he's the creator of the heavens and earth, and he created each and every single one of us, do you not believe that he's breathed greatness into each and every one of us? He has. The thing is that people can take you to the water, but they can't make you drink.
Yeah.
The greatness is within you, but you got to take that. You got to take it. You got to be the one to persevere to get that. Nobody's going to give you anything in life. You got to be willing to work hard for it.
Amazing, man. It's an amazing
I know.
message, bro.
Thank you for sharing your story with us.
Thank you for
today.
having me. I appreciate
And I
it.
can't wait to see you on our Horton show. Our Horton show for No Promotions. Can't
Thank you
wait.
so
It's
much.
booked in.
Okay. Oh, it's booked in.
Yeah.
Oh, so I'm really in.
I did a slide text on the side, so it's sorted.
All right, done. Perfect.
See you there.
Thanks
Thank
for
you
coming
very
on,
much.
bro.
Thank
Really
you so much.
appreciate
Rocky. I
it.
appreciate- Thank you so much.